A pleasant day to everyone. I am Dennis Apog, third year BS Ed English student Block 2. Today, I will discuss my synthesis from the book Classroom Assessment: What Teachers Need to Know, 8th edition by W. James Popham. I choose the topic Affective Assessment. Mostly of the educators acknowledge the importance of students' attitudes toward learning. The values that the students obtain shape their affective learning and bring them to have holistic life. However, few of the classroom's teachers disregard attention in integrating and influencing their students' attitudes and values. Sometimes, a teacher can observe student behavior and find out that the student feels uncomfortable and ill-mannered. In this case, the affective assessment becomes a tool to generate students in their affective conditions, and this will provide assistance and cater students' attitudes, interests, and values. Why do we need to assess affect? How important it is? Affective variables are said to be more relevant than cognitive variables. Lots of people became successful even they are not intellectually gifted, but they succeed because of being motivated and values-oriented. The rationale of such affective variables as students' attitudes, interests, and values are important to us is that those variables would typically give impacts on students' future behavior. The purpose that we want to promote positive attitude of students toward learning is the reason that students who have positive attitudes toward learning today will be willing to pursue learning in the future. There are varieties of possible attitudinal targets for teachers' instruction, such as positive attitudes toward learning, positive attitude toward self, positive attitudes self as learner, and appropriate attitudes toward those who differ from us. These are the following attitudes that the teachers needed to be nourished and learners' attitudes development. The interest of the students must have also be cultivated. There are kinds of potential interest targets to be considered. These are subject-related interests, interest in reading, and interest in emerging technology. Think wisely on what consequences that could boost the interest of learners inside the classroom. Fix on possible interest-focused affective targets. Another one is the potential value targets. There are kinds of values which are sufficiently meritorious and non-controversial, unlike political and religious values, which must be separated in a classroom setting. These values are honesty, integrity, justice, and freedom. These are considered as potential affective assessment and must be embraced by students. How can we assess affect in classrooms? Self-support assessment through self-report inventories is one of assessment activities that could be done. We can gather data from students' self-report through self-report devices. One of these is the Likert inventories. It composed of series of statements which listed upon agreement or disagreement. Students can choose from multiple options with honesty depending on them if they agree or disagree with a statement. They can choose from strongly agree, uncertain, disagree, and or strongly disagree. Another tool is the multi-focus affective inventory. This type of assessment device try to see information about students' affective dispositions. The Likert inventory could make statements into 10 to 20 statements in a single affective dimension, but the multi-focus affective inventory might measure 5 to 6 affective dimensions in a few items. There are 5 steps process for creating multi-focus affective inventories that fits for classroom use. First, select the affective variables to measure. Second, determine how many items to allocate to each affective material. Third, create a series of positive and negative statements related to each affective variable. Fourth, determine the number of praising responses options, and lastly, create a clear directions for the inventory and an appropriate presentation format. Multi-focus affective inventories are scored like the Likert inventories. Points are being awarded for students' agreement with positive statements and for students' disagreement with the negative statements. There are 5 levels of agreement options ranging from strong agreement to strong disagreement in an inventory using only 2 items per variable. 5 points for strongly agreement with a positive item and strong disagreement with a negative item. Minimum of 1 point per item. In a pair of items dealing with students' interest, the score could range from a high 10 to a low of 2. For accurate inferences in students' affective status, it is necessary for students to respond truthfully. On the other hand, there are cases that students respond based on socially desirable responses, and these make their responses untraceable. There are more simple but effective anonymity enhanced procedures to address this problem. First, make directions that stresses the importance of honesty and answering affective inventories. Second, response restrictions. Students are allowed to check marks or encircle the preferred answers and not to make written comments on the inventory. Third, and last, collection. Instruct procedure that students deposit their completed inventories in a collection box. When to assess affect. It is vital to set up affective assessment, at least a pre-instruction and a post-instruction, to measure students' attitudes, interests, and or values. From the start of the school year and at the end, it can be conducted to determine meaningful changes of students' affect. As a conclusion, affective assessment has to do with teaching. Teachers collect learners' affective data to ensure that learners learned not only for cognitive and skills aspects, but also they learn emotionally and obtain values within themselves. Also, teachers will find strategies to elevate the students' interest in learning. Throughout these ways, learners are learning with morally right manners, and this could help to make them successful learners with positive attitudes in order to improve their dispositions in life. And that's all my sentences. Thank you for listening. And God bless everyone. Thank you very much. I hope that you learn from me about effective assessment. Thank you.